This week your homework is pretty straightforward, and I hope it gives you a little break from some of the more intensive Excel work. Most of your homework questions can be answered by just reading through the text. Okay, so we need to generate a random sample, and in order to do that, we need to use the rand function to assign some random rankings to our customer data. So if we have quite a bit of data here, trying to select it all in the old-fashioned way like this would take a while. See, it just keeps scrolling. So one trick for those of you who are newer to Excel, if you're trying to select a bunch of data in a column, is you can click the top cell and then Control Shift down, and it will take you to your last row of data. So you can see there's 1,185 entries, and we just want a random sample of 30. Let me go back to the top of the spreadsheet. I could also select the cells, all cells here by doing Control Shift down and then holding Control Shift and clicking over. Okay, so back to the top. I'm going to use the rand function, and I'm just going to generate. Let me see if it will. Okay, it wouldn't let me. Control Shift down doesn't work here because it doesn't recognize where it's supposed to end. So I'm going to use my little trick here where I select till I see the black cross, and then I'm just going to drag it down the old-fashioned way. And this will give me a random number for each item of my data, just like that. Now, before I click anywhere else, I actually need to change this so that it's pasted as values, because if I leave this the way it is, every time I change something in the cell, it changes all of the numbers. So if I tried to filter this right now, it wouldn't work. And let me just show you what I mean. So why don't I go up to sort and filter and say sort smallest to largest. I just want to sort this column. Okay, so see how it didn't work? That's because it did sort it, but then it also recalculated. So first, I need to take this data, I'm going to copy it, and then I'm just going to right click, and I'm going to look at my paste options here. There's this little clipboard with the 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to click that, and this means paste as values. So it's going to remove the function from the cells and just paste the values that are currently residing in those cells. So now when I do that, you can see the rand function is gone, and now I can select my data, go over to sort and filter, sort smallest to largest. It wants to know if I should expand the selection, and I am going to do that because I want to make sure that I keep all of my data together, meaning when I sort this column from either lowest to highest or highest to lowest, I want the customer numbers to go along with that information. Since I'm taking a random sample, I don't want to disassociate my data from each other. So that's exactly what I expected to see when I sorted from smallest to largest. My customer numbers remained intact, and now I have a random sample. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight the first 30 cells, and I'm going to consider this my random sample. Okay, so I have my entire population, which is the 1,185 rows of data, and then I have my sample of 30. I need to calculate the population mean, the sample mean, I think it was standard error, and then there's a few other things. Let me double check the homework. Okay, I need the sampling error, and then I'm also going to need the standard error. And if you look in the book, it will give you these formulas, but in order to calculate the standard error, if you check the formula, we know we're going to need the standard deviation, and we're going to need to know n, which is our sample size. which is an input. So if I were practicing good spreadsheet modeling, I might format this cell to show that it's an input. Okay. Population mean. So to get the mean, we just take the average. So the average, and I'm using my arrow keys here to come over to my time field, which is what I'm calculating the average of. So for the population, I want all of it. So I'm going to hit Control-Shift-Down, and that selects my entire sample. Close the parentheses and hit Enter. And then for the sample mean, I only want the first 30 cells, since I'm just taking the mean of my sample and not the entire population. So my sampling error is going to be the difference between the two. And I might want to, you can change your decimals over here. So I'm going to add 2 decimals. Okay, and then for standard error, I will leave you to the book to look up that formula. But remember, for your standard deviation, we need the standard deviation of the sample. So we're going to use this formula. Oh, I guess it didn't like that. Standard deviation. And we're going to select only our sample data. Close the parentheses. Okay. I'm going to make these consistent at 2 decimals, and then now I have all the pieces that I need to calculate the standard error. So go ahead and complete that. And then the last part of this question asks about reducing error. If you wanted to reduce the error by half, I think what would you need to do to the sample size? And the answer to that can be found in the book. It's an approximation. It's kind of a rule of thumb, but when you answer that question, the key takeaway is that generally when we do sampling, we're still sampling a really large amount of data. And if we're like taking survey data, getting say like 5,000 responses or a hardy sample size is really difficult. Even 1,000 responses is really difficult. And so if we have a lot of error in our responses, and we want to improve our statistics, we have to increase the data points sampled by quite a bit. And this can make it really difficult for us, because at some point we just can't collect any more data. It's either there's not a large enough population to sample from, it's cost prohibitive, time prohibitive, resource intensive. We don't have a place to store that much data. There's a lot of reasons. So think about that while you're answering the last part of this question. And all the other questions are conceptual, and like I said, they can be found by just reading through your text carefully. So good luck.